Yes, guys, what's going on? Welcome to Stretford Paddock. I am Adam McCullough, and of course, it is transfer window season. As everyone's going mad for transfers at the moment. Transfers in, transfers out, big money moves. Some clubs haven't even got money at this time, but it's not stopping the rumours from popping off. And in this video, we will be looking at 5 transfer signings which Manchester United could make this summer to turn us into Premier League winners. That has to be the target for Manchester United. We have to be targeting winning that Premier League title. It's our bread and butter. We haven't won it since 2013. That's way too long now. We are bordering on 10 years without a title, so we need to make sure we win it soon. And like I said, we have got together to bring you our personal top 5 transfers to bring Manchester United that title. Let's get stuck into these. Jadon Sancho is an obvious one. He's the perfect right winger for Manchester United. He fits in for that number 7 shirt. He's British as well, which kind of fits in with the mould that we're going with at the moment. But not only that, he's a quality player. No other player, apart from Lionel Messi, managed to get around the amount of goals and assists he got last season in the Bundesliga in top 5 leagues. He's absolutely killed it in terms of goal contributions. His skill, his flair makes him an exciting player to watch. He is ready-made for the theatre of dreams, and Jadon Sancho is ready-made for our right-wing berth, so he would be the obvious first signing.
So first of all, for me, I think we need a centre-back and a left-back, which is why I'm picking David Alaba. He can play in both roles. He's excellent. He's a world-class left-back. He's a world-class centre-back. Obviously, he's been at Bayern Munich for a very long time, but he's only got 1 year left on his contract there, which means we should be able to get him for a decent fee. He can support Luke Shaw in that left-back role, but primarily, David Alaba would be playing alongside Harry Maguire in that left centre-back spot. He's the perfect way to take United's defence up a notch.
My first signing to make Manchester United win the title would obviously be Jadon Sancho, as everyone would probably put in this video. Jadon Sancho is a generational talent. It's thrown around a lot, but he definitely is that. He has 16 assists in the Bundesliga this season, 17 goals. He's one of only 5 players to score that many goals in the top 5 leagues this season, and I think he'd really revolutionise Manchester United's attack, playing on the right, as we've not had a proper right winger in many years.
First up, some young lad from Dortmund, Jadon something, you may have heard of him. It looks like, at the time of recording this, Jadon Sancho is about to sign for Manchester United, and he's one of the players that can take this team forward. We know we've got options in attack. We've got the likes of Marcus Rashford, Mason Greenwood, Anthony Martial, but you need to have other options. All the great Manchester United teams were built on being able to swap players, being able to rotate, being able to bring players in. Solskjaer has won it, for example. So this is what United need to do. If we are going to get challenging again, we need to have different options up front. So Jadon Sancho coming in gives us that. It means we can rotate, we can rest. If players are out of form, they can have a little break. Also, if we pick up an injury, we're not struggling. So we've got options there. And Jadon Sancho, we know what he can do. An exciting, attacking player, gets goals, gets assists, and he's only young as well, and I think he can move Manchester United forward towards a title challenge.
The second signing for me has to be Jack Grealish. Yeah, I want to see Jack Grealish in a Manchester United shirt and at the club. Now, it may mean we have to get rid of a few players to make way for Jack Grealish in the Manchester United team. But if we can get him, now I know the 80 million price tag that Villa are putting on him is quite high, and we need to try and bring that price down. But a player that wants to leave the club, a player that would want to join Manchester United, I'm sure that's something that we can make happen. He's helped them get into the Premier League. He's helped them stay in the Premier League. Surely they can grant him a move, and he would be perfect for the stage at Old Trafford. When you look at the kind of player he is, the pressure that he takes on his shoulders, the way he plays, the swagger that he has, the goals, the assists, that kind of thing is the kind of player that, you know, if you're chasing a game or you're trying to win a match, he's going to pick the ball up and grab the game by the scruff of the neck. And we've got so many players that can do that, but we need more. We can't just rely on Pogba and Bruno to be creating all our chances, and that's why Jack Grealish would be a great signing for Manchester United.
Second then, I'm going to go N'Golo Kante. He's been one of the best centre defensive mids in the world for the last few years, and he keeps getting disrespected at Chelsea, let's be honest. Under Sarri, he was forced to play in a more attacking role. Barely even gets a game under Lampard. Him and Jorginho don't seem to work together. So if there's a space for him in Man United's squad, then I think he can certainly fill that role. He's one of the best defensive mids, like I said, in the league. He's got so much energy. He's great on the ball. He's great tackling. He's the perfect foil for Paul Pogba and Bruno Fernandes. He can play in that deeper role by himself, as we've seen from the Man U match, but he's got a few years on Matic and he's got a bit more energy. And he also knows Paul Pogba from the national team, so we know they can play together.
My next signing is a bit more of a rogue one. I'd go for Sergio Reguilon from Real Madrid, who was on loan at Sevilla. He's been linked heavily with Chelsea and Everton recently, about 18 million. At that price, he'd be brilliant to bring in, add competition for our left backs. He's definitely better going forward than Luke Shaw, and he was named the best left back in La Liga last season. So I think he'd be a great signing in order to make sure our left-hand side is as strong as our right.
My next player that I'm going to pick is Thomas Partey from Atletico Madrid. Great midfielder, great defensive midfielder, someone who I feel could come in and do the job when Nemanja Matic can't. Matic has been great for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer these last sort of 6 months or so, or certainly since just before and just after lockdown. But he is 31 and you don't know over the course of a season how many games he can play. You look at other players around him, you look at maybe the likes of Scott McTominay and Fred. Are they good enough to do that sort of number 6 role, do that role on their own if you're going to have Bruno Fernandes and Paul Pogba in midfield? I'm not so sure. Someone like Partey, he could do it. We've seen what he can do in Spain. We've seen what he can do in the Champions League. We saw what he did against Liverpool at Anfield, and that makes me think that he could slot into the Premier League, a player of that quality, and do a job as well, and be an alternative to Nemanja Matic, either longer term or even short term if you wanted to rotate the two. So Thomas Partey would be my second choice for 5 players that can help United win the title.
Next up, Thomas Partey, and the reason I've gone with him is his price is a reasonable price. He's got a release clause of around 50 million, and he's plays in a position that we're crying out for at this moment in time. Now, Thomas Partey is probably one of the better options on the market. Not really been linked with Manchester United, which is disappointing. It looks like we're going to target that defensive midfield signing probably next summer. And try and go with Matic and McTominay and Fred covering for Matic in the next 6 to 12 months. And that's fine. But if we want to win the league right here, right now, I believe we need someone in there because we can't rely on Nemanja Matic week in, week out. Scott McTominay's not a natural in that role. Fred's not a natural in that role. But Thomas Partey is a natural in that role. And he'd come in and he'd be exactly what we need. And he'd probably start most games as well. So Thomas Partey.
Up next then, it's going to be Harry Kane. I mean, he gets disrespected. This £200 million fee, all this stuff, it's not happening. No one's paying 200 million quid for him. But if United could get him for maybe sort of more the 80 to 100 million pound mark, then he would be the perfect signing for Man United. Martial has come on leaps and bounds in that number 9 role this season, but Harry Kane is the most proven striker in the Premier League. He's averaged, I think, 25 goals a season in the league for the last 5 or 6 years. He was the top scorer in the world a couple of years ago. He's an elite goal scorer. And if United can add him to our roster, we've seen how much N'Golo changed the squad. We've seen how much effect he had. Imagine adding maybe the best version of that kind of striker in the world. He can hold the ball up. He's great in the air. He can make shots and make space for himself. Harry Kane would take our attack to the next level.
My next signing, keeping on that left-hand side of defence, would be Alessio Romagnoli from AC Milan. Brilliant left-sided centre-back, only 25 years old. He's very good on the ball. He's got 90% pass accuracy this season. He's very good in the air, very good tackling. A very well-rounded centre-back, and I feel like he'd add a lot to the defence, bring a bit more experience than some of the other centre-backs we've been linked with, especially like Bassett. I can't say his name. But yeah, I think he'd definitely improve our defence next to Maguire.
Third up, bit of a different one this, but people may sort of question it, but I'll explain. I'm going to go with Max Aarons from Norwich. Now, he's only young. I think he's about 20 years old. And you may say, we've got Aaron Wan-Bissaka. We don't need another right-back. Certainly not from a team that have just been relegated. But Ole Gunnar Solskjaer likes to play 3 at the back sometimes. And I think Aaron Wan-Bissaka could be a sort of right centre-back if we wanted to do that. If we wanted to go to 3 at the back, I think Aaron Wan-Bissaka could fit in there nicely, meaning that we need someone as a right-back. Longer term, you may look at Ethan Laird. Doesn't look like Diogo Dalot's got much of a future there. So someone like Max Aarons could come in because I think the jury's still out with Laird. We don't know. He may have to go out on loan before we can see whether he's up to the job of being a Manchester United player. Someone like Max Aarons, who's got a season of Premier League experience under his belt. He was linked with United in the past before we got Aaron Wan-Bissaka. I think there's talk of Bayern Munich being in for him. He's had a decent season in a poor team, but I think there's lots more levels for him to reach. He's only young. He can go a little bit higher. And I think if you get him in, gives you that option as well. If Aaron Wan-Bissaka is injured or needs a rest, then Aarons can cover for him. And if you want to go 3 at the back, you play Aaron Wan-Bissaka as one of your centre-backs. and have Max Aarons on that right-hand side. So he'd be my third choice.
I also think we need a centre-half now. Smalling, Jones, Rojo, those guys may be leaving Manchester United, which could see us bring in a little bit of money for those guys, but we're still going to need to spend a little bit on top as well. Now, this one has been made a little bit more difficult by the fact he's recently signed a deal at his current club, but Dale Upamecano would be a fantastic addition to Manchester United's defence. You'd then have Lindelof, Maguire, Bailly and Dale Upamecano in the defence, and I think that'd be a great selection of centre-halves to have. Obviously, Axel Tuanzebe when he comes back from injury too. And they'd all be fighting for those first-team spots. Out of those four, you can't say him and him should start. Him and him should... You can't really be certain about which one should start. And obviously, we're looking for a partner for Maguire. And Upamecano would be great to challenge Lindelof and Bailly for their spots in the team as well. So I've gone with Dale Upamecano, but I do think a centre-half signing is important for Manchester United, no matter who it is. Well, it doesn't matter who it is, but you know what I mean.
Of course, Jadon Sancho is next up on the list. It looks like this one might actually happen this summer, so, you've got to have him on the list. He's the best right winger in the world, I would say at this point. Yeah, he is the best right winger in the world, and he's also 20 years old. He's the perfect right winger. United need one. We haven't signed one since Antonio Valencia. He's going to get goals, he's going to get assists, he's going to get more penalties for Bruno to take and to wind up other fans. Jadon Sancho has got to be in that squad.
My next signing would be from the Premier League, from Leicester. It'd be Wilfred Ndidi. 7 tackles and interceptions this season. He's a monster in midfield. He wins the ball back. He can pass it forward. He'd be an asset to any team in the Premier League or probably even in the world. He's one of those players that you don't see in a while. He's tenacious. He fights at every ball, and he'd be the perfect signing in order to bring balance to our midfield and help Fernandes and Pogba move forward more.
Fourth choice, I'm going to go with Raul Jimenez. I think he's a player that could come to United and do a job. I spoke earlier when I mentioned Jadon Sancho in the need for having options. You need to have options up front. And I think the thing with someone like Jimenez, he's different to the types of players we've got. He's not the same as a Rashford or a Greenwood or a Martial or even a Jadon Sancho who like to get in behind, who like to run at players, run at defenders, cause problems with their pace and their skill. Jimenez is more of an old school centre forward, and I think you need that. You need something different. So if you were going to rotate or if you're going to bring someone off the bench, it gives defenders something different to think about. So that's why I think someone like Jimenez, going back to that old sort of United ethos of having lots of different options, would help us move forward and hopefully get us challenging for the title.
Now the next one, we had to raid one of the relegation teams for this, but I don't think that's a big problem. Now I was looking at their team and I was thinking, Ben Godfrey's all right. Todd Cantwell's all right. Wouldn't mind, nabbing one of them for the squad. But then I thought, how about Max Aarons, bringing him into the club? Diogo Dalot's probably going to leave. Who knows what's going to happen with Timothy Fosu-Mensah? Does Ethan Laird go out on loan? I know Aaron Wan-Bissaka's our first choice right back, but Max Aarons can play right back, left back. Luke Shaw's injured until the start of the season. Brandon Williams wasn't in the greatest of form towards the back end of the season. He obviously still needs to mature a little bit. So maybe bringing someone in like Max Aarons, who I'm sure would jump at the opportunity to be a part of Manchester United's first team squad, rather than sit in the Championship, would be a good move for the club and would help us get our squad closer to what it needs to be to really win that league title.
And finally then, my last signing, and it's not really a signing, but it is a new player to the squad, and that is Dean Henderson. I think David De Gea, he's been a fantastic servant at Manchester United. He's been the best player probably for the last 10 years on average, I would say, at Manchester United. Been putting in world-class performances year upon year upon year until recently. I think that there's still a chance that David Hay could turn his form around at Manchester United, but we saw this season from Dean Henderson. He's the number one shot percentage saver in the Premier League this season. He's young, he came through the academy, he loves Manchester United. I think if we are going to challenge for the title and win the title, we need a goalkeeper that we can rely on week in, week out. And it pains me to say it, but I'm not certain he isn't, but I'm not certain David De Gea is that man anymore either. So Dean Henderson is the last signing for me to make Manchester United champions.
My final signing would be in the vein of Robin van Persie, nicking from Arsenal, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang has only a few years left on his contract, maybe even 1 year left on his contract. It's running out. In 2.5 seasons he's been in the Premier League, he has scored 52 goals, 22 goals in the last 2 seasons. He's a ridiculous talent. He's ridiculous in front of net. And having him as an option to score us goals would push us for that title drive, and I definitely think that he'd be a great signing if we could get him in the vein of Robin van Persie. So that would be my 5 signings to bring United the title.
And my final choice is not very original. He's been linked with United for quite some time. We all know what he can do, and that is Jack Grealish. Had a great season at Aston Villa, kept them in the Premier League, which sort of looked like it may mean he's not coming to United, because obviously Villa don't have to let him go, and it may take some time to get that deal done if we are in fact going to get him. But regardless of that, I think he's a player that could come to Manchester United and do a very good job. I wasn't a massive Grealish fan until I saw him at Old Trafford against United, and I saw how well he played. He rode a lot of challenges, and he kept getting up, he kept wanting the ball, and he scored a great goal. And I think he's been a massive part of the reason Villa have stayed in the Premier League. If he was in a better team, he'd have lots more assists. He creates a lot of chances. He just doesn't have the players around him to finish them. But I think if he came into this Manchester United team with the likes of Martial, Rashford, Pogba, Bruno alongside him, he'd get goals, he'd get assists, and he'd flourish. And I think, again, it goes back to that whole thing, that old thing I mentioned earlier, of having different options. You win titles not by just having a strong 11, but having 13 or 14 players who can do the job, who are more or less all first-team players. And Jack Grealish, if someone like Bruno or Pogba was out, or if any of even any of the attackers, he can play just off the striker, he can play on the left, he can play on the right, he can do it all, he can play anywhere, and he's a player that's quite young and has that Premier League experience, so we know what he can do. So those would be my 5 players that if Manchester United sign, we can get challenging for the Premier League again.
Let us know what your top 5 is in those comments below. Make sure you're clicking that subscribe button, liking, commenting, sharing. Whose 5 did you agree with most? Let us know in the comments as well. And yeah, I'm sure you're going to criticise, praise, do all that stuff. That's what the comment box is for, innit? Make sure you're subscribing though. Like, comment, share, and join. For now, this has been Stretford Paddock. I have been Adam McCullough. We're out of here.